This is a reading of my piece, There Are No Limits Regarding Taste in Comedy, but I begin with a quote from Lenny Bruce. Let me tell you the truth. The truth is what is, and what should be is a fantasy, a terrible lie someone told the people long ago. That's Lenny Bruce. There are no limits regarding taste in comedy. Lenny Bruce, the father of profane humor in mainstream clubs, wrote How to Talk Dirty and Influence People. But Lenny Bruce was a serious person, an esteemed and remembered moralist, and a cultural advocate for free speech, a kind of patriot. He wasn't a leering MC in a titty club. Mark Twain used the N-word freely in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The book is banned by many school districts and libraries, but Huckleberry Finn is one of the great works of literature and world history, with great insight about the issue of race as a fundamental aspect of the American character. He was not a frat boy making bigoted jokes to amuse his father at a country club. Richard Pryor used the N-word, all the profanity of Lenny Bruce, and graphic and disturbing imagery, including a pantomime and monologue depiction of his flesh being on fire as a result of an accident while using drugs. He was brought up in a Peoria whorehouse by his grandmother, a hard woman from the toughest streets. His voice as a comedian reflected that background, but also included a deep and natural vulnerability. Pryor's work had great cultural significance. He helped usher in a greater acceptance of uncompromised African American culture by white America by speaking with defiant pride and no apology. His work was a cry of dignity for an oppressed people beginning to come into their own. Beyond that, his work addressed humanity as a whole. He made one beautiful set piece after another about freedom, resilience, injustice, and intelligence, among other great themes. He was not a bad rapper dropping N-bombs and F-bombs while using ugly imagery to advocate violence. There are no limits of taste in comedy. Profanity is allowed. Politically incorrect observations are allowed. Disgusting images depicting physical pain and gross bodily functions are allowed. As in all art, the unvarnished truth, portrayed with brutal honesty, is allowed and required. Art in general, and particularly comedy, is not only about creating pleasing aesthetic images. Comedy at its best is about transforming consciousness and expansion of the comedian's and his audience's hearts and minds. Truth is beauty, and beauty can be found by thoroughly understanding and transcending ugliness. The comedian's tough words and imagery must therefore come from a perspective of moral and compassionate intelligence. It must never be used to denigrate the weak. It must, as Mark Twain wrote, show the comedian's, quote, scorn for untruth, pretension, imposture. Good comedy attacks the people, ideas, and institutions that keep us down, and suggests what freedom looks like. And that's pretty. John Cleese said that satire provokes some people to think and angers the people that it confuses. And so it will always be. There are no limits to taste in comedy, but it must never be mean or stupid. The mean and stupid and the merely confused sometimes accuse the most highly moral and humanist comedians of being tasteless and lacking all morality. I wrote this the Thursday before Easter. It's an interesting dynamic to think about the Thursday before Easter. Jesus had many good lines about the Pharisees and the Romans that many thought were in bad taste at the time.